everyone, and this is BioPhoenix here, and today I'll be taking a look at something that I haven't done in a long ass time, and that being a fan-made game, but this time, a fan-made game on the NES, and that being Nova the Squirrel. And the game was developed by the same name, Nova Squirrel, and it was released in 2018. So yes, it's an indie game that was released on NES hardware. But firstly, let's go over the game's story, which is very simplistic. So the game takes place in the world of Latte, and apparently, it's a video game world. And it's being threatened from the evil Scheme Team. And it ever so happens to be an army of robots. And the only one who can save this world is a green squirrel named Nova, and that's literally all you need to know. Now, this game does have a lot of cutscenes in between certain levels, where it has a lot of dialogue within them. For an example, there is a character named Sherwin who happens to be kidnapped. But since this is an NES game, I figured I'd keep it short since, well, most NES games usually have a very simplistic plot, and that's fine because they all work well. So anyways, moving on to the main gameplay. So it's a side-scrolling platformer, which is something that I take a look at very often, and the power-ups that you get within this game, you don't just simply collect them, you actually steal them from the monsters. But unlike Kirby though, you don't eat them. Instead, he just kind of goes over them, and yeah, he just gets it. I don't know, it's kind of weird. But then again though, it is a green squirrel we're talking about here, so I guess it doesn't have to make the most sense ever. But whatever, you're a green squirrel that has superpowers to allow you to copy the abilities of enemies. Or in between levels, you can also get them within the shop, because yes, you actually do use currency in this game. And there's quite a few different power-ups that you can get throughout the game, so a lot of them are different projectiles that go in different patterns. But probably my favorite one would have to be the flying hamburgers that explode. Yes, that's a thing that happens in this game. And to make it crazier, you can also ride on them for a short time, so you're pretty much seeing a green squirrel riding on a hamburger, like holy shit. And one unique one that I thought was pretty cool and interesting was that there is a block power-up where you can actually put the block anywhere on the screen, and wherever you put it, you can actually use it as a leverage to get where you need to go. In a way, it kinda reminds you of something that you would do in Super Mario Maker, but only that you're doing it while playing the level. So yes, the progression of the levels is, as you would expect, getting from point A to point B, but sometimes getting to point B though can be a little tricky. For obviously, you have many different obstacles like monsters and pitfalls, but also some levels do require a little bit of thinking power and problem solving. And I should also mention that the game has no game over, no time limits, thank god. And on top of that, it even has a good checkpoint system, which is always great. So now, let's get moving on to the game's controls, and I do think they are pretty good in this one. And it's exactly what you would expect. You know, move around with D-pad, one button jumps, the other button attacks. Holding down the attack button while moving allows you to run. Holding up in the attack button allows you to copy an enemy's ability if you're over one. And holding down in select is to get rid of a power-up. So it's as easy as that. And do they feel good? Yeah, they do feel pretty good for the most part, but if there is one thing I do have an issue with, is that I do find that the running in this game is a little bit too fast and sensitive for this kind of game. And I find the regular walking speed is already pretty fast as is. It's almost like when you run in this game, it feels like that you're about to time travel or something. But other than that one thing, everything else does feel really good and responsive, and I can't really complain much. So now, let's get moving on to the other things, like the graphics. And for this game, they are pretty nice looking. So everything is bright and colorful, which is to be expected. And there is some pretty nice looking sprite work in here, and the backgrounds look pretty good too. In fact, I really like the one that they used for the second world. That one's like kinda trippy looking. And the monster designs are pretty decent looking, even though they do recycle some of them with different colors, but I understand though. And as for the game's cutscenes, they're pretty minimal. Basically, it's just a white background, black text, and just some like little pictures here and there. Nothing too crazy, but I think it works for what it is. But the in-game graphics though, which is what you're mostly going to be looking at though, I do think it is very appealing looking, and I do like it quite a bit. And as for the game's music, the music is actually really good in this one. It has a lot of very nice, upbeat, and catchy tunes. But probably my favorite tracks would have to be the one for World 2, and also the final boss theme. That one's actually pretty awesome. And the music was composed by Verniac Squarewave. And this YouTuber actually makes a lot of different music from different games and even some original stuff with different types of sound chips. So if you do want to check out this game's OST and along with some other stuff, I would definitely recommend it. So now, if you wanted to go out and buy this game, well, you can't. And that's because this game, believe it or not, is actually free. Yes, if you go on their website, or if you go on itch.io, or even GameJolt, you can actually download the game for free. And if you look in the description, it actually says that they made the game usable in emulators, so meaning that they clearly just want their game to be played. So that's pretty nice of them to just release a game like this for free. Although I'm sure that someday in the future you probably might get someone out there who will make a reproduction card of the game, which I think would be pretty cool to see, but as of right now though, I haven't seen any yet. But of course, I will leave a link down below so you can try it. So now, as for my overall thoughts on Nova the Squirrel, is that this is actually a pretty enjoyable game, and I'm not just saying that because it's free. No, even if I paid like $5 or $10 for this on Steam or PSN or eShop, I still think this would be a really good solid platformer. So there's 33 levels in total, which I think is really nice. The level design I think is really good too, and there's a lot of creativity within it. For like I said, that block power-up I just thought was just really interesting and unique. The challenge in this game is well done for that it is very forgiving, for that there's no time limits, there's unlimited continues, and there's many checkpoints throughout the level. And this game does get pretty hard later on though, but it was never to the point of it being frustrating though. So overall, I'd say this is a really fun indie game that was released on NES. And the fact that it's free, you just can't beat that. But before I end it, I have two things I have to mention. Well, one of those things is something I forgot to mention earlier, is that whenever you die within this game, it almost sounds like Ganon from Zelda CDI whenever he says, "Die!" Just take a listen. Die. 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 But anyways, that was just something random I wanted to mention that I thought was funny. But the other thing I wanted to mention is that they're making a sequel to this game called Nova the Squirrel 2, and this time it's going to be released on the SNES. So that'll be a game I'll definitely play whenever it gets released, and I look forward to it. So I can definitely recommend playing Nova the Squirrel. So with that said, thanks for watching and commenting, and have yourselves a great day.
Rubber baby buggy bumpers.